talk about Canva's startup story.
220 million people that use Canva as a product as well. They launched with 5 languages in 2016. They then ratcheted that up to 100 languages in 2017, including Hindi, Tamil. I think India could be huge, so it's our 4th biggest market at the moment. I think it could reach the #1 position, very soon. We've been able to move large parts of the company towards thinking in an AI-first manner.
The last few years have really been about the shiny objects, and 2025 is probably going to be much more about real use cases.
We've now matured our ML and our AI teams to adapt to this new technology, and we've pivoted every product team inside Canva now to think AI first.
Is an IPO the next logical step in this journey?
I think it is the next logical step. When we need to take that step, I don't know. We have been very cognizant about getting investors who are as excited about every part of our vision as we are.
You don't have managers in the company?
We have what we call coaches.
Yeah.
We take a very coaching mindset into people's growth at Canva. Part of our grander plan of the 2-step plan, which is step 1, build one of the most valuable companies in the world, which we're well on the way to doing. And step 2, probably the more important step, is to do as much good as we can.
Not just law, but a little bit of DJing in your previous avatar as well.
I've not given up on it. It's still a distant dream, and I inflict it on every Canva party that we have. I have to get up and DJ.
You're the DJ, is it?
I am, yes.
Hello and welcome to the Young Turks podcast. I'm Shereen Bhan. My guest today started a company with 2 other co-founders, and the company today is into its 2nd decade. What's interesting about it is that it has a global play. It's operating across 190 countries with consumers taking to it in different languages as well. India is a key market for the company, and if you're a student, a social media enthusiast, a content creator, even a professional, you probably have used Canva at some point in the last few years. Joining me now to talk about where Canva is, and more importantly where Canva is headed, is the co-founder Cameron Adams. Cameron, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18 on the Young Turks podcast. It's great to have you.
It's such a pleasure being here, Shereen. Thank you for having me.
This is your first time in India. It's your 4th largest market in your first time in India. How did that happen?
I have no idea, but I'm definitely coming back. It's day number 3 now, so it's been a rapid introduction.
Do you feel overwhelmed by the India experience?
I don't. I feel very energized. It's been great meeting both our local team here as well as students at IIT, customers, some local government people. It's been really great being here and feeling the energy and the vibrancy and the diversity of India.
You talked about the diversity of India, and before I get deeper into the India story and how it's playing out for you, what's been the one unique sort of, thing that surprised you about the way that Indian consumers have taken to Canva?
I think their usage of presentations to do so many aspects of work has really been impressive. India is one of the leaders in presentations usage in Canva, and they use it for everything from pitch decks to starting up their business to communicating with their teams. And it's really cool to see that happen. We actually had a few students come up yesterday and say they'd been using it in class as well. So seeing those students bring their ideas to life through their businesses and their startups is what Canva's all about. It's like giving people opportunities.
So let's talk about Canva's startup story. And as I pointed out, the 3 of you came together in, 2012, 2013? 2012, and then decided that you wanted to democratize design, broadly speaking, and make it much more accessible and easy for people to use. Now, from there to where we are today in 2025, is there a moment of disbelief that how did we get to where we are today?
There's constant moments of disbelief. I think you have these times, particularly when the whole team gets together and you realize how many people you've brought together to build this thing that is Canva. We now have 5,000 people around the world. We have a team here in India.
Yeah.
And when you get to meet all those people in different locations, you realize the impact that you're having on people's lives, both directly through who you employ through Canva, but also through the 220 million people that use Canva as a product as well. So every time I get to meet a Canva naut or a Canva user, it really excites me because you get that moment of disbelief that something you've built and thought about for 13 years is having these ripple effects in the real world.
So I want to go back to where it all began and how it all started. And it's interesting because you talk about purpose as being the why or answering the why for your existence or why the right to win. And I want to start with that premise and how the journey actually began at Canva, because you were hoping to solve a problem that you actually encountered yourselves.
Yeah, so I think each of us as co-founders approached design in a different way. I'd been a professional designer for a long time, and I'd seen how creating products and tools could empower others who weren't as, design friendly. And then my co-founders had been running a yearbook business for a long time, and they had seen how teachers and students had approached design and how giving them a great tool could enable them to express themselves better. When we came together, it was the perfect meeting because each of us had different skill sets, but the same perspective on the power of design and the ability to express yourself creatively and visually. The opportunities had just opened up for you. So we were keen to build Canva as a tool that put design in the hands of people who hadn't been able to access it before. And our mission for the last 13 years has been to empower the world to design, which means we want to take design to far-flung corners of the world and make sure that every person can access it in their language, with local content, on any device, and to really give it to people for almost free. So we give the product away to an incredible number of people for free. It's a freemium product. You can sign up for a pro subscription if you want a few more features. But most people in the world use Canva for free, and it's an incredibly empowering experience for us to offer that. And we see it across businesses who use it to scale themselves from their very first day, through to teachers and students who use it in the classroom. Teachers use it to engage their students more. Students use it to express themselves much more creatively. And it's wonderful to see what happens when you put design out there and give it to everyone.
And I'll get to the numbers in just a second, but I want to address this two-step plan that you worked with over the last 13 years and explain that to us, and how it's refined over the past decade and a half.
So talking about education and the impact that we can have there by giving the product away for free, that is part of our grander plan of the two-step plan, which is step one, build one of the most valuable companies in the world, which we're well on the way to doing. And step two, probably the more important step, is to do as much good as we can. And we've focused on that since day one through programs like Canva for Education, through Canva for Nonprofits, where we also give the product away for free to nonprofit organisations anywhere in the world. We now have 750,000 nonprofits who use Canva through that program, so it's had an amazing impact. But we think about that through every aspect of how we run the business, through the product decisions we make, through pricing decisions that we make, and how we engage our teams as well. So our teams in Sydney, Manila, Beijing, Austin, Texas, London, they all think about how they can be a force for good for their community as well. We have a very strong volunteering program where people in offices can go out, visit schools, cook meals for people who are in need, and contribute to their community in a way that's entirely contextual. So we push that step two plan out across all of Canva and also into the Canva Foundation. The Canva Foundation actually owns a whole part of Canva, and our idea is that by putting a lot of the value of Canva into the foundation, it can then contribute to step changes in social impact over the coming years. The Canva Foundation has deployed well over $30 million now, and we've deployed it into several different programs, one of which is Give Directly, which is a organisation that gives money directly to people in need. So rather than being paternalistic and thinking that you know what's best for them and building a school or building a well, you actually empower people by giving them cash allowances that they can access over many years, and they get to decide how they want to improve their lives, which is very contextual and very unique. And when you look into the stories of the people who have been given these allowances, it's amazing, because some people use it to buy a goat, which helps their farm, or buy concrete, which helps them build a new house, or even buy a mattress, which helps them get better sleep so they can perform better in their life.
You know, it's interesting because it's almost part of your DNA, this impact philosophy that you're working with, the need to be a force for good, as you said. But that's not typically what startup founders obsess about or focus on, especially at the start of their business. Why this obsession?
I think each of us came to Canva wanting to do something differently. And it wasn't just the product, it was also about how we run a company and how we run a team. And we decided that building a great organization isn't just about the bottom line. It's not about your stock price at the end of the day. It's really about the impact that you can have on the world. We can have a major positive impact through the product that we deliver, and building up step one so that we're providing value through the product and getting paid appropriately for it is an important part of the two-step plan. But the other part of the two-step plan is doing the most good, because we think that when you bring a group of people together, 5,000 Canvanauts around the world, the impact that they can have through the choices and the decisions they make is incredible. And that runs from your purchasing decisions through to how you think about carbon emissions, through to how you think about the environment and the people that can be supported through the programs that you help. So to us, it's all part of building a great company.
But they're not mutually exclusive. It's not as if you don't think about the bottom line, because it's what, your 7th year consecutively that you've been a profitable business.
Yes. It's important to be sustainable in all aspects of the word. People often think of sustainability as being environment, but sustainable business is also very important. And we think that by building value in Canva, that then lets us have a greater positive impact, because the more value that's in Canva, the more people we can employ that can have their impact, the more value we can put into the Canva Foundation so that it can deploy money to the right places. And overall, that creates a healthier organization that is bringing in money, but also dispersing it in the right way.
So if purpose is why, values for you have guided or have been the compass for how you should go about doing what you do. So, you know, when you look at prioritization, clearly it seems to me that you've prioritized values over valuation in the hope that values will drive valuation for you.
Yeah, and I think it's proven itself. The amount of talent that comes into Canva because of our culture, because of the values that we have on our website and that we live every single day, that enables us to create more value, because the more brilliant people that we have coming into Canva here in India and all around the world, the better we can make our product, the better we can make step two, the better that we can be an organization for the world.
You know, let's talk about some of those numbers. And I was just taking a look at how many monthly active users you have, 220 million globally, 22 paying subscribers today. And you talked to us about the freemium strategy that you have. But there's a significant headroom for growth in terms of paid subscribers, you think?
So we're up to 24 million paid
Now.
subscribers now. So
Breaking news.
It grows pretty rapidly. But yeah, there's always room for more head growth. I mean, we have ambitions to be a billion user product, and we see
By when?
We see a pathway there over the next few years. Let's just say before 2030, you know, we're geared towards that because we see the diverse use cases for Canva all over the world. Even here in India, you see Canva being used by so many different types of people in many walks of life to do very different things. You have people creating pitch decks as presentations, you have people creating birthday cards, you have students creating videos to express their learning, you have businesses creating websites to drive customer traffic to.
So will it be the end consumer, or will it be the enterprise that will drive the kind of growth that you envisage?
Good balance of both. We traditionally started with individual users.
Yes, and now you're moving more to the enterprise, or at least focusing on the enterprise side.
Yeah, and I think what is really great about Canva is that we have both grassroots adoption and top-down adoption. Grassroots is from people who just love using it, who find it a joyful experience to both use Canva and a joyful experience to get the impact of having a great presentation or sending out great marketing materials for their business. But we also have the top-down, which is companies, enterprises, even school districts, like large groups of people that want to bring Canva into their organization and use the power of visual communication, of brand building and messaging, and bring their team together to do that in a unified way, which Canva is really helping. So we're operating at both ends of the spectrum.
You know, on the enterprise side, what's been the big learning for you? Because it's just the start of that journey for you, but it's also a very different world that we're living in today. It's a social media, influencer, marketing-driven world. So how's the enterprise adoption working out for you so far? What's been the big lesson so far?
I think we had to learn a lesson that we couldn't just push the normal product straight into the enterprise. We saw this great grassroots adoption from people all over the companies, and we thought that we'd just be able to wrap that up in a bow and get an enterprise deal. That wasn't actually the case. We needed to do the type of learning that we did in the early days when we were first looking at our customers, but at an enterprise level. So what does a CMO want? What is a brand team looking for? What is the CEO of a company looking for when they make a decision to bring Canva in?
So what are they looking for? What is the CEO looking for? What is the CMO looking for?
Primarily, they're looking at ways to foster collaboration across teams, but also ways to control the spread of the software and the spread of their content within the Canva platform. So visibility into what their employees are doing and a way to organize them in much more logical ways. We kind of had rampant organic growth of teams inside companies. So you'd end up with pockets all over the company that didn't know about one another. And one of the things that our enterprise product does is tie all those together. It gives leaders like the CMO or maybe the CIO insight into where Canva is being used, how they can aggregate usage, what teams need to know about one another, and then creating consistent materials that all those teams can use. So the brand team creating a great social template for the whole company to use, or a presentation that the sales team can use. Centralizing that so that everyone can benefit from great design across the company.
You're talking about how leaders are actually using Canva and breaking down silos, so to speak, and getting the organization to move in a much more aligned fashion. I want to look at what you're doing internally, and I believe you don't have managers in the company?
We have what we call coaches.
Yeah.
We take a very coaching mindset into people's growth at Canva. So you have your coach at Canva, and they work constantly with you to think about the work that you're doing now, the work that you want to be doing in 6 months' time or a year's time or even 5 years' time, and the skills that you'll need to get there. And we have a whole growth and development framework that outlines the skills that we've consistently seen Canvanauts need in order to be a great Canvanaut. And it covers things from leadership to strategy to craft and communication. And within there, your coach can identify what you might want to work on in the next 6 months. So maybe you've got a few.
So how's it different from a manager?
It's much more of a growth mindset. So rather than a control relationship where a manager is dictating what work you're doing and grading you heavily on your performance, it's more about thinking about what your growth is, how you can personally develop and positive outcomes for your time at Canva rather than negative ones.
Was this driven by your own experience, whether, I don't know, in school or college or in your working life? Is this trauma returning in some form or fashion?
Definitely not trauma from me, but we'd seen it, there's various patterns in, team management and how teams work best together that you can spot across different organizations over the last couple of decades. And it was also drawn from our experiences with coaching. So we had a coach who came in and helped us as leaders to grow and think about opportunities and areas that we would need to adapt to and gain skills in. And we wanted to democratize that coaching across the entire organization because previously management coaches are very expensive, they don't have much time, so it's something that only the top few people in the company can actually access. We wanted to give it to everyone.
So what has this resulted in? If I were to link this to business outcomes, has it brought down attrition? Has it improved productivity? What has this resulted in moving from a control management manager style to a much more coaching, philosophy?
I think the thing for me which it has really benefited is flexibility. So it's the ability for people at Canva to move to the biggest problems and the biggest opportunities. It's one of the things that fuels our innovation is our ability to move quickly and to rapidly change direction when we need to. AI has been a great example of this. As that has come onto the scene and new possibilities have been enabled by the technology, we've been able to move large parts of the company towards thinking in an AI-first manner and seizing those opportunities that are there. So we've been world leaders in bringing AI tech to customers, and it's shown in the growth that we've had.
You know, since you talk about AI, which is the conversation that everybody's having at this point in
You're
time.
not sick of these conversations yet?
I hope I'm going to get something different or new from you. But I understand that your ML journey for Canva began 7 years ago. So you've been working on that for a few years. What's different in 2025? I go back to something that I remember you said that the last few years have really been about the shiny objects, and 2025 is probably going to be much more about real use cases. So explain to me what you're seeing today that's different over the hype that we saw over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think, over decades, AI has gone through different phases, and we've seen it in the last 10 years that it's also gone through different phases. When we started with machine learning and AI, it was very much behind the scenes. It was crunching data that would help you give a better experience to people through recommendations and stuff like that. And that's where our ML team started. They were offering better templates to people when they first signed into Canva to make their experience better when they were designing. In the last couple of years, you've seen the technology become much more customer-facing. So with the advent of LLMs, with visual AI that powers stuff like our photo background remover and our photo editing, people are actually interacting.
I believe that's one of the most used
It is in India. It's
really?
it's the most used AI feature is photo background removal. It's
I
really
wonder
cool
why,
to see. It's
though.
really
I
cool to
wonder
see some of the
why.
usages of it.
Have you figured out why?
My theory, we haven't figured it out, but my theory is that resumes are also one of the top design types in India, and people do a lot of background removal on their headshots to get it into the resumes. That's just my theory. We'll have to go get a data scientist to look into it. But yeah, you're seeing people now interact with AI much more knowingly. Like they know they're interacting with an AI system, and the AI system is able to respond to them in a way that's appealing and also effective, which we didn't have 3, 4, 5 years ago. So the experience that you're now offering people through AI is incredibly important, and it's very different to what we've been able to do before. So we've now matured our ML and our AI teams to adapt to this new technology, and we've pivoted every product team inside Canva now to think AI first and to have machine learning engineers on their team, to have data scientists at hand to be able to bring the right data in to fuel those AI experiences. And thinking about AI as an enabling and empowering force, because it's a continuation of our mission for the last 13 years, which is to empower the world to design. And we think that AI is the next pivotal technology that will empower the world to design and give people new opportunities to create and express themselves.
I'll come to the creativity debate that's currently underway. But, you talked about getting more data scientists on board, getting more people who are specialists in dealing with AI on board. Has it changed the way that you hire people? Has it also changed the way that you organize your workforce? Has it changed your workflow as well?
Yeah, it's changed dramatically internally, how we think about the skills people need and their kind of readiness to embrace AI technology as well. I think it's a good signal if you look at someone who's applying for a job now, how much they've embraced it as to their flexibility and their growth mindset. Because we find the people who haven't embraced it are the ones who are kind of set in their old ways, who just want to do things how they've always been done. But if they're ready and willing to embrace AI, that also means they're really ready and willing to embrace 1,001 other opportunities that come up in their work life. So it's not just about the technology piece, it's about a whole growth mindset that I think you can allude to when you see someone willing to try this stuff out. It has started affecting the skills that we look for in engineers, in designers, in product managers. They need to be able to use AI as an effective tool to deliver a better product, a better experience, better service for our customers. So yeah, it's definitely a skill that we're looking out for.
Going back to the big debate that's currently underway, and it's interesting because on my way here, I got an Instagram notification, which was essentially someone saying that I need AI to do I wish AI would do my laundry and dishes so that I could focus on my writing and my art. And I think that's where this is sort of now boiling down to. There are issues around copyright, it's issues around, is it going to kill creativity? Is it going to kill art as we know it? How do you weigh in on this?
I think, that's how it's exciting, that all these debates are happening, that there's all these different perspectives swirling, and that no one has the answer. And it's something that you see every time an innovation comes in, whether that's the Industrial Revolution or desktop computers or the internet. They raise questions that society needs to grapple with in order to effectively deploy that technology. And we're at that moment with AI. We're starting to figure it out, but we don't have all the answers to everything. I think you need people at the helm who are optimistic about what the technology can do, but also understand the controls and possible regulations that you might need in order to roll it out properly for society's benefit. But yeah, there's a lot to explore here, and that's why it's exciting for me as a builder, because you're entering uncharted territory. You're exploring things that no one has ever explored before.
So as the chief product officer, as you look at, as you said, uncharted territory, these are untested waters in many ways. Governments, regulators, companies around the world are grappling with what you need to do. From a product perspective then, do you start to put guardrails in place? Are you looking at some of these conversations and debates that are on and to see how the product can perhaps respond to that?
Yeah, you need a real balance. You want to encourage people's exploration and creativity, but you also want to limit any damage that can happen. Canva actually has one of the world's leading trust and safety teams who are constantly looking across our product, but also specifically at AI, and making sure that the ways people interact with it and the output that you get from anything that's AI generated is safe and can be trusted. And that's very important for the user base that we have that encompasses, almost every person in the world. Making sure that they can trust our systems and they can safely use them is an important part of our brand promise. And it's something that Canva has worked for 13 years to build, and we want to ensure it survives for 50 years. So the work that our trust and safety team do to make sure that these systems are appropriate in every country in the world as we roll them out, and people can have a great experience with them is super important.
So do you believe that in many ways we're probably going to diminish human creativity, or do you believe that this is a tool that will in fact enhance it?
I think human creativity is boundless, and it is flexible and dynamic, and it adapts to its environment. When you think about creativity today, it is very different to creativity 500 years ago. And that is because our environment changes, our needs change, our tools change, our technology changes. And humans are incredibly adaptable, and they will take what is shiny and new and figure out amazing things to do with it. And we're already seeing this with AI. Creatives who are embracing AI are coming up with amazing new ideas, producing things that couldn't be produced before, and using it as part of their toolkit. It can change what it means to be an artist or a creative or a designer, but I think those roles still exist. They just change their skill set, they change what people expect of them, and they change what's possible. And that's the exciting part, is like you're creating things that possibly no one has ever seen before, and it's enabled by technology.
So do you see it as an accelerant now, as in your 15th year? Do you see this as an accelerant for you in terms of being able to do the kinds of things that you probably would have taken a few years to put out into the market? Does this become a sort of an enhancer in that way?
Yeah, we're seeing improvements across the board. So like me personally, it gets a bunch of stuff I don't want to do, like writing emails and Slack messages.
How many co-pilots do you have? Or
I have one very astute co-pilot who just goes with me everywhere. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff you don't want to do that it gets off your plate, which is fantastic. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of enabling ways that it helps you. So if we're entering brainstorming or ideation, being able to quickly call on an image generator to quickly mock something up, an idea that you might have, test it out, like test for you personally, see whether it resonates with you, then put it in front of actual other people and see whether it resonates with them. that is invaluable in finding the right idea to pursue, as opposed to the first idea that you want to pursue. AI is enabling that. Our brand team uses it for our events and our marketing campaigns to quickly storyboard things out. And then you're seeing when they get to final production work, whether that's a document that you're writing or an image that you're sending out as an advertisement, AI is helping produce that as well and help you produce it to a higher quality. And then also do things like enable you to put it into 100 different markets. You know, an Instagram ad, you might have only been able to really target one language. Now with AI, you can target 190 different languages and do so in a consistent manner with the right brand that speaks to all of your customers around the world. So you're seeing so many ways that AI is enabling and enhancing creativity and efficiency.
So, from a Canva perspective, what could that potentially mean in terms of the offerings that you put out into the market, in terms of the number of markets that you address, the solutions that you could perhaps work on? You talked about languages, specifically in India. I know that you've got something interesting and unique planned here as well, as far as Hindi is concerned. So what could AI unlock for Canva?
So being truly local is one of our big pillars, making sure that Canva can be used anywhere in the world by someone who speaks a totally different language, who has a different culture, operates in a different society. That is super important to us, and that's why we have a team here in India focusing on the Indian market. AI is a huge enabler of that. We actually have a feature inside Canva called Magic Translate, which can take any design that you create and instantly translate it into 100 different languages. That is an amazing unlock and efficiency gain that we didn't have 2 years ago. So using tools like that, we can bring Canva to more people with a better experience for them and then enable them to do great work. So truly empowering the world to design and use the power of design to achieve their goals. So we think about AI both internally and externally. How can we help our teams use AI to produce better work? And then how can we use AI in our product to help the world produce better work and help the world reach its positive goals?
It's interesting you talked about localization and the need to empower the local teams to do what is right for that particular market. This is very different from the typical MNC mindset or international company mindset, where the decision making actually happens in the headquarters and the execution is done by the local team. But you flipped that. And take me through what prompted you to do that, because this is again part of the design philosophy of Canva.
Yeah, we've been on a real evolution with how we think about local markets. Back in 2016, we knew that we needed Canva to be in languages other than English. We didn't quite know how we were going to do it. We didn't know all the technical hurdles that would come up as we tried to do this, but we knew it was important to empower the world to design to get Canva into other languages. So we actually kicked off an internationalization team that started investigating it. They launched with 5 languages in 2016. They then ratcheted that up to 100 languages in 2017, including Hindi, Tamil, and a whole host of other Indian languages. And since then, we've evolved what we mean by truly local. So it's not just about getting the file menu to be in a different language. It's about the full experience of the product and also of the content that you can access through Canva. So here in India, we've thought there very deeply about the templates that people need, the events they're going to celebrate, how they find those events on Canva. So
there's an event that's being celebrated every minute in this country. So
exactly.
There's a lot of work you're going to have to do.
So like not just thinking about a wedding as being a white dress wedding in Sydney, Australia, but think about Shadi and all the events that take place over 4 days here in India. Like what content do people need in an Indian context to celebrate the wedding of 2 people? And we've put a huge amount of thought into that here in India, and that's actually culminating in the launch of a fully Hindi website today, actually, which thinks not just about language, but about content, about how people use it, what they want to achieve, and how they do that in an Indian context.
What could India potentially do for you in terms of global revenue? I mean, you've done what, $2.5 billion in 2024. I know you don't reveal the geographic breakup, but what could India potentially contribute to revenues over the next 5 years?
I think India could be huge. So it's our fourth biggest market at the moment. It was five just a few months ago, but it's continues to rapidly grow, and I think it could reach the number one position very soon within the next few years. We're seeing incredible usage and incredible diverse usage of Canva across the Indian market as well. It's not just individuals producing social media content, it's also businesses and workplaces using Canva for presentations, pitch decks. It's great to see Canva mentioned on Shark Tank from all these entrepreneurs coming through who are using Canva to communicate their idea much more effectively. And then we're seeing it at the top end through enterprises, large organizations that are bringing Canva in and using it as a unifying force for their messaging and their brand across their whole team. We're consistently seeing that across the Indian market, and I think that means that revenue will also grow commensurately with the usage. So we're very positive on India being a huge market for us, and that's why we're keen to invest in it.
We're talking about revenue and valuations, and you were valued at 40 billion, and that is now down to 32 billion. But that's also on account of what we're seeing happen globally. But when you see that, what is the thought that goes through in your head in terms of addressing it, in terms of how you absorb it? How do you look at the valuation number?
We're not obsessed about the valuation number. It's a great indicator of progress and of growth, but it's not something that we sweat about every single day or every week. We're very much looking at the long term for Canva. How do we build an organization that's sustainable and resilient? How do we build one that brings in enough value that we can then deploy through step two and in making the world a better place? How do we make it one of the best workplaces in the world? We've been recognized the world over for having an amazing workplace and being one of the top employers in many different countries. So we're always looking to that long term, to 1 billion people using Canva for all sorts of different things in all sorts of different organizations, from helping out with their local cake sale at the school to helping out with a massive marketing campaign.
Is it easy to sell that idea, the long-term vision that you have, to the investors who have put their money into the company? I mean, you've got marquee investors from Sequoia to Bill Gates to General Catalyst and many, many others. The idea of building a business for the long term, and I understand that there is patient capital, but everyone's idea of what patience is differs. So the idea of that you have and being able to sell that to the investors on board, what's that experience been like for you? Because I'm sure a lot of other entrepreneurs would like to hear about that as well.
Our investors are in the same journey that we're on, and we have deliberately not brought on investors who wanted to be on a different journey to where we were going. So I think if you're thinking about investment as a startup or a growth scale company, you still need to think about the partners that you want to have on board with you. Think about every investor that approaches you, every pitch that you do, and don't just necessarily take the first one that comes along.
How many did you say no to?
No to. In our first round, we definitely didn't get to say no as much as we do now.
I would imagine.
We got a lot of no's in our very first round from people who didn't believe in the vision, and we're very fortunate that those who did come on truly believed in our vision. We expressed what we wanted to do with the product, the impact that we wanted to have on the world, and they believed in it, and they believed in us. And ever since that first round, we have been very cognizant about getting investors who are as excited about every part of our vision as we are. So we have been able to say no quite a lot over the following years as Canva has become more successful, and people have started approaching us as opposed to us approaching them. And I think having that true sense of self-belief and that crystal clear vision of where you want to go and being able to express that to investors, to team members, to customers is super important. So that's what I would implore other startup founders to do.
Yeah, and having that crystal clear vision in your words, but more importantly, sticking to it through what I would imagine have also been difficult times. Explain to me, have there been points in the journey where you have felt almost compelled to to take a different track, but then have said, no, this is the red line, this is the boundary that we stick to?
Yeah, there have been many times where business pressure or any sort of outside pressure has forced us to think about what we believe, what our values are, and make a decision between those. And we have consistently erred on the side of doing what we believe in rather than what is quote unquote expected of us. And I think that's part of what Canvanauts really value in us as leaders, is our ability to stick to our guns and stick to our vision and make sure we're constantly on the true path. And also for investors and also customers as well, who see the strength of belief that we have, the culture that we build, and the values that we truly believe in, and want to come on that journey with us.
Speaking of investors, I think the next logical question would be, when are you looking to IPO? Are you looking to IPO? It's been 13 plus years. You've raised a significant amount of capital, over $50 million so far already. So is an IPO the next logical step in this journey?
I think it is the next logical step. When we need to take that step, I don't know. So I can't give you that answer. Well, I do know, but it's not something we're rushing into. It's not something that is a checkbox that we want to check. We want to do it at the right time for the right reasons, and have everything in place that we need to be a successful public company.
But do you believe that perhaps going public would weigh on the impact part of the business and the aspiration that you have on the force to be good aspect? Because then you're bound by having to deliver every quarter to shareholders.
I think as we started out with Canva, we wanted to be a different organization. And I think telling the story of a different organization, even as we might go public, is also going to be important to Canva's future. Being able to communicate to investors what the value of step 2 is to us, to them, to Canvanauts, to Canva customers and users, all of that is going to be important. And I think we can carve out a very unique and powerful and impactful story of an organization doing things differently, and bringing on public market investors who also believe in that and can see the value in step 1 and step 2.
I'm curious, are you looking at what's happening in Silicon Valley at this point in time with the raging battles between Elon Musk and Sam Altman? And, what do you make of what's going on there?
It makes for some good doom scrolling, but we don't really compare ourselves to what's going on outside. As I said, our vision is crystal clear. What we believe in and where we want to go is clear in our heads. And whatever's happening in some other company or some other country is not hugely relevant to us. We know what direction we're heading in and where we want to get to, and we execute upon it.
And I think that's an important point, because how do you stay away from and we live in a world where everyone's on Instagram or some sort of social media, and you're kind of being bombarded by headlines and information and so on and so forth. The fear of missing out, it's real. How do you stay away from that? How do you avoid the temptation of not joining the herd?
I think by not spending your whole day on social media would be a good start. I think me personally, I definitely balance what I consume versus what I put out. And not spending all day looking at other people and comparing yourself to what they're doing and being reactive to what's happening in the market is important. You need to proactively drive it. You need to know what your next step is. You need to know what your long-term plan is. And the fact that something that's happening today won't matter in a week's time or a month's time or a year's time. So keeping that perspective and having the right support around you, both in family and also in your business, is hugely important when you want to stay on that track.
So how have you built a listening organization? Because I know it's very important for you to actually build and react and respond to what your customers are telling you. How do you build a listening organization?
We've done it through a whole bunch of different ways. So internally, we offer as many forums as we can for Canvanauts, Canva employees, to put in ideas, to put in worries that they might have, to ask questions of leadership. That's anonymous kind of drop boxes they can put messages into. That's forums that are all hands that they can get up and ask a question at. And it's ways that we incorporate ideas and innovation into our product development process. So that's one whole side of it. Then the other side of it, and I forgot the rest of your question.
Building a listening organization.
A listening organization. So think about the external side of it and think about customers. That has been how a lot of innovation at Canva has been driven. Listening to our customers, understanding what they want from a product, and then incorporating that into our vision. Because we have a big vision for what we want the product to be, but customers also have needs as well. And marrying those two together is really important. So we've actually developed a whole product development process that roadmaps out our vision and then also incorporates milestones for what customers want. And we call this closing the loop.
Okay.
Because we get a ton of requests and data from social media, emails, support requests of what people want us to do.
Right.
And we actually map all those out, see where the biggest demand centers are. So some people might say, I want to be able to add a gradient to my text. And we collect that data, see how many people want it. And when it becomes important enough and it fits in with our roadmap, we incorporate that in. And then we close the loop on that by making sure that every person that asks for it gets a personal message back saying, here is the feature that you asked for.
Nice.
And it creates this really great community love because people know that we're listening to them. They know that the product is built for them and they feel personally invested in Canva now. So it's a great way of involving your community in your product development.
Well, I believe not just law, but a little bit of DJing in your previous avatar as well. Have you given up on that altogether? Is that
I've
still...
not given up on it. It's still a distant dream, and I inflict it on every Canva party that we have. I have to get up and DJ.
You're the DJ, is it?
I am, yes. Mostly on my demand, but also on demand from our employees.
Do you have Bollywood on your playlist yet?
I have a few Bollywood songs in there. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I have a few must-haves that I will drop.
So let me end then by asking you, Cameron, as you look at the future for Canva over the next 5 years, give me the headlines that you believe will truly give us a flavor of what this company could potentially look like.
So for us, we're continuing on this journey of bringing visual communication to everyone. And we truly believe it's a superpower when you give people access to design. That started with individuals. In our second decade, we're really looking at how people work together to create amazing things. So how can they collaborate on a Canva design? How can they collaborate on an entire marketing campaign together on the Canva platform? So that's one of the key things that we're looking at, and that's driving a lot of our enterprise growth and the way that we shape our enterprise product, and then also things like our school districts product. How can large groups of teachers and students use Canva together? And then on the technological side, a lot of it at the moment is about AI and how that can empower people to design. How can we take what used to be, 13 years ago, a 5-hour job that needed to be done down to, when Canva arrived, a 5-minute job, and now that AI has arrived, down to a 5-second job. And connect people with that in a way that makes sense, that still empowers them, that harnesses innate human creativity, but helps them get their job done better, helps them express themselves better, helps them work with their teams better and come up with better solutions. That's what we're really focused on in a product sense.
So, I'll end by asking you, as the Chief Product Officer as well as a co-founder, we've all sort of lived through this era of the paranoid survive. Is that what drives you as well?
I would say the optimistic survive. So people who can see what the future is and how much better it can be if we harness human collective power, technology power, social power, and bring it all together. That is how I think about the future and how we think about planning ahead.
Cameron, we wish you the very best of luck, and we look forward to seeing much more of you in India, and we hope that you have a great trip. And thanks very much for joining us here on the Young Turks podcast.
Thank you. I'm so keen to come back, and I'll say hi when I do.
Please do that, and it would be lovely to have you back on the program as well. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of the Young Turks podcast from all of us here on the team. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news will continue right after this.